A very good afternoon to you. It's a Friday afternoon. I'm just back, and for love nor money, I cannot seem to get off 31 exposures. Um, yeah, don't know whether it's me or just nothing happening. Um, Probably a bit of both, in all honesty. Yeah, in a bit of a rut, so I thought what better than to answer another question from Pellicula. Can you talk about some of the photographers who have inspired you and or you find their work to be unique? It's putting the cat amongst the pigeons, isn't it? I mean, there are numerous photographers' work that I love. There really are. Far too many to mention here. But I've pulled out a few, and a few that are revered, but I don't sort of understand quite why they're revered and whatever. And one or two that I just don't like at all. But anyway, yeah, it's a little bit. I was a little bit reluctant to do this because there is something that's a bit judgmental about it, and it's such a subjective thing, isn't it? What images you like and the aesthetics that are attached to any one given image. It's yeah, I can just give you my two pennies worth, and so be it, kind of thing. One of the reasons I do this vlog or these vlogs on YouTube is it's a sort of reaching out thing, it's a sharing information type thing, and occasionally somebody chips in. I'm not going to mention his name. You'll know who you are. I didn't ask your permission in advance. And they sort of, yeah, I mean, this was in response to a different vlog that I did, obviously, a previous vlog. And he just said, have you heard of this guy? And no, I hadn't. Minor White. I mean, regarded as a hugely influential, brilliant American photographer, and I can see why. But I'd never heard of him, and I love discovering new work, new artists. Now there weren't many images that I could pull off to show you that were of high enough resolution. I didn't want to sort of I didn't want to show you low res images because that would detract from his work. He's no longer alive. I think he died 1976. I think I read. Don't quote me on that. But some images here that I did that were of sufficient resolution, I just think they're stunning. Absolutely stunning. I can't say they've inspired me because I've only just come by him, but utterly wonderful. And look, they're not images that I would ever say to myself, oh, I want to go and take some images like this. I mean, I wish I could, but it's not my thing. And yet I can still recognise that it is utterly wonderful work. So inspire is a funny kind of word, isn't it? There are formative photographers who, when I was growing up, I saw, and they inspired me to buy my first camera, which I'll come on to a bit later. They haven't inspired me in terms of the work that I do. So yeah, it's a bit of a loose term, inspire, isn't it? I don't know of any photographers who have directly impacted my work. I mean, my work is, it's real life. It's not contrived. If I was into contrived, I would perhaps gravitate towards this. Well, I'm sure I would gravitate towards this. But the vast majority, apart from the portraits, are all, in the split minutiae second of. So I can't sort of stop and think to myself, oh, how would Joseph Curtis, how would Joseph Kudelka take this photograph? Because there isn't time. You just have to respond and be really quick. And so everything that I gravitate towards, everything I try and do is just based on my own little idiosyncratic set of feelings and thoughts in that given split second. So, yeah, I mean, maybe you can see correlations. Maybe I'm too close to my own work to be able to see those. Maybe, there are influences that have crept in. I'm sure there are. I'd be surprised if there weren't. But, work that definitely resonates is for sure this kind of work. I mean, I think any image that I love, I have to connect with in some way. It has to have light and shade and tones and texture, all those good things. And this work absolutely excels in all of those departments. Just beautiful. He photographed people. He photographed landscapes. Some snow up against a wooden building. I just love that. He kind of reminds me a little bit of. I don't know anything about him. But he reminds me a little bit of Nick Cave or Neil Young. A sort of more eccentric photograph of him. Is he sort of dressing up to be a clown? I don't know. I'm not sure. But beautiful, beautiful work. Minor White. Fantastic. So I'm going to speak momentarily about this photographer. It sort of harks back to my fashion days when I flirted briefly with fashion photography, going from college to being a fashion assistant, if you like. And I'm thinking kind of early mid-90s kind of time. And there were a few photographers around. Patrick de Michelier was one, Corinne Day, and this guy, Mario Sorrenti. And Kate Moss was just coming onto the scene, if you like. And by all accounts, Mario Sorrenti and Kate Moss were an item. They were given a cottage or something somewhere to go and shoot galore. And from that came the Calvin Klein advert, the Obsession advert, I think. And recently, Mario Sorrenti has brought out a book just called Kate. It's way too big to show you, but maybe you can, get an idea. It's beautiful book, encased. In this kind of cover, and then it pulls out. It's a little. It just very, very beautiful, and I love it because it's a it's just a very young Kate Moss. I mean, okay, wonderful subject matter, and look, I know it's fashion, but that there's some work in there of. It's also, I think, shot on Pentax 6.7, and there's just some gorgeous photographs of a young Kate Moss on a bus, and yeah, I mean, it's two people in love, and it reminds me a little bit of that a girlfriend I had probably when I was that age, and life was, all fascinating and amazing, and yeah, life was ahead of you, and it's just a beautiful time of being in love, and so I kind of like it for that reason. I like it a lot for that reason. I probably annoyed the life out of that ex-girlfriend, but it didn't matter. We were young and footloose, fancy free, and yeah, it was a special time. And so yeah, this book just reminds me of that. And anyway, Mario Sorrenti, and look, they're seemingly still together, or not together, but on good terms. This is them older, years later. So hey, that's lovely in itself. But yeah, some stunning images, beautiful images. I think sort of all natural light, beautifully printed. Anyway, just thought I'd mention that. So let's move on to another photographer at that time. Again, fashion, but he sort of transcended fashion in a way, was a guy called Paolo Roversi. Some of these choices you might find strange, but hey, my origins are my origins, aren't they, I guess. But he was doing something completely different. So if you can imagine, there was a lot of kind of grunge fashion happening, yeah, sort of overly thin models, and they were getting a bit of flack for it and giving the wrong impression to young women and all that kind of stuff. Paolo Roversi just came in and sort of did his thing, which was completely different. It was just colour, but I think sort of photographed on Polaroid and then photographed onto film. And he just got this sort of otherworldly kind of stuff. But then I realised, I think, somebody who preceded him by, 10, 15 years, was Sarah Moon. And boy, again, a lot of this stuff was done for Vogue and what have you. But she shot a lot of stuff that wasn't Vogue as well. And you just think, well, in such a contained space, to get that much texture, I'm not even a colour photographer, but I can't help but love some of this work. Just really stark and saturated colours, and then black and white. And okay, fantastic styling and clothing. But even so, some of those colours are just sumptuous, and the poses and the expression and the atmosphere. I think an extraordinary photographer. Beautiful images. You could take any of these images out of Vogue and put a frame around them, and they would grace any museum or exhibition hall anywhere in the world, as far as I'm concerned. Really, really special, I think. Nothing like anything I photograph, but that doesn't matter, does it? It's just, you like what you like. Um, did it inspire me? I don't think so. No, not to any extent. But it's just recognizing wonderful work when you see it, and when something moves you, it's a special thing. It's like a great film, isn't it? Um, Another color photographer was who definitely raised my eyebrows was Ernst Haas. He was I think, a Viennese, Austrian American photographer. So lived his life in America, but originated or was originally from Vienna. Um, I think sometimes what's special is when it's a little bit like I read somewhere, Paris, Texas. You get a you get somebody like Robbie Mueller, who was the DOP, the director of photography of that film, and he was Dutch. And sometimes when you get somebody from outside come in, they see everything afresh, and you know that range of mountains is no longer a range of mountains; it's a spectacular range of mountains. Somebody who, a Native American, that sounds like an oxymoron, but anyway, you know what I mean. Somebody who's lived there all their lives, it's just another, they've seen it a million times, and it's nothing special to them. But those opening scenes of Paris, Texas, where it just meanders over those hills and then comes down to Travis walking along those railway lines. It's it moves you. I think this is what Ernst Haas did. He saw America with fresh eyes, and it was all very interesting and stimulating to him on some level. But just phenomenal work. I mean, color or not, it's just it's got texture. It's got that movement, which I think is really special. I mean, I'm looking at his work. It's kind of looks like very fine-grained film, maybe 50 ISO or something, which is going to give you a much slower shutter speed. And he's used that. He's just gone with it and, used it rather than, So, yeah, I mean, just phenomenal. Different subject matters, people, sailing boats, bullfighting, reflections in glass. I often think that's a bit of a cliche, but not with his work. It just looks utterly beautiful. Those sort of reds and yellows that, and then the blue, the cold of the blue light or something. Absolutely, if you're going to use colour, wow, It reminds me a little bit of Sol Leiter's work. A little bit. There are quite a few reds and yellows in his work. Equally brilliant photographer. Really like his work. Yeah, brilliant. There are people like William Eggleston who I just find utterly banal. I see documentaries with him. I don't even like him as a person. Everything about him is, I don't know, a fraud as far as I'm concerned. He, he tells you that he dragged colour photography kicking and screaming when colour photography wasn't a thing back then. It was only used for commercial work. Well, that's a load of baloney, I'm afraid. Sol Leiter and Ernst Haas were doing it at least a decade before him, at least. And taking much, much, much better work. He's just, he's just got zero ability. And then I think he recognises that and so calls it modern art. Can't take a photograph. I'm drunk half the time when I am taking photographs, but hey, I'm just going to call it modern art and see if I can get away with that one. And, had a curator who thought that would be a good idea as well. I think, as good as he was, I think that was a big mistake. But anyway, people maybe, he's one of the biggest photographers in the world, most highly paid photographers in the world, but I don't rate him at all. I see no merit in his work. That's just me. Who next? Let's get this over and done with, because talking of no merit, Alex Soth, I think it is. Although I want to say Soth and then add a C and call him Alex Scoff, because that's what he seems to do with his portraits of people. Are they portraits? I don't, I'm reluctant to even call them portraits. Just, a huge, juggernaut of can't think of the word, when just a publicity stunt, really. I just don't see what's special about his work. I love the title of this book, Sleeping by the Mississippi. Don't know whether that was his title or... and I love the cover. I do love the cover. It's a photograph. It's some wallpaper. The photograph in the book. Don't like the photograph, but I like the idea of taking that and then putting it on the front and creating a bit of texture with it. And that's a nice idea. But that wasn't his idea. So anyway, I don't think they're bad photographs. I just think they're okay, but utterly banal. He's a Magnum photographer, and I just... So, Sleeping by the Mississippi, it's kind of like a romantic... gives you a romantic feel. It's a beautiful title. And then you open the book and you're just confronted with all these people that look utterly devoid of anything, really. They kind of look dead. They look as though they're... that's a difficult thing to do. Why does a guy that looks like he's an inmate in prison have the exact same blank expression as this young woman who wants to tell you she's she's found God or whatever? And then she has the same expression as two women who are supposed to be sex workers. It looks like a mother and a daughter. It's just blank, bland. And I thought about it, and I thought, is he telling them to just do nothing? I thought, oh, right, he shot this with a 10.8 camera. Big, cumbersome box wooden camera. That's okay, but I'm thinking why? Because that would normally be a camera that you would use, it has huge negatives. and you use that for billboards and that kind of stuff where you're going to make massive prints. But he's using it in this instance where it's just cumbersome. It takes a long time to set up. What's the point here? Why a 10.8? And then I'm thinking, oh, he thinks that's going to give him some kudos. Maybe he's trying to compensate for the fact that the images are just so bland and banal that, oh, but I shot them on 10.8 and that makes them special. Well, not really, no. Make the images interesting, you know. Ernst Haas shot with a 35mm camera. I think he shot medium format as well, but you know, infinitely more interesting, infinitely more, you know, there's just something that you can feel. I didn't feel anything with these photographs, and that's staggering. You know, you're telling me that you've gone the length and breadth of the Mississippi River that spans from the very north point to the south of America, right down the middle, kind of, slightly over to the east, and yet everybody within the vicinity of this river looks blank and dead and lifeless, and nobody wants to, you know, has got any character whatsoever. It's kind of cliche. I've seen this work a million times by a million different photographers. It's just kind of cliche. It's not knowing how to interact with people. I think it sort of says more about the photographer than it does about the people he's photographing. And I kind of thought about it, and I thought, oh, I know what's going on here. He's not getting any rapport with them. He's probably a little bit introvert, even though he comes across as quite an intelligent, nice, you know, interesting guy. Is he with strangers? I don't know. But there just seems to be this awkwardness, and it's almost as though he's asked these people their permission for these photographs. So heavily contrived images, which they have to be if you're using a 10.8. So again, maybe that's not the best way to do it. But anyway, that's the decision he's made. And then what's happened is that he's set up, he's got his background or whatever, he's tinkered with a few things, perhaps. And meanwhile, this sitter, this person he's found the photograph, is standing there thinking, for God's sake, you know, how long's this going to take? And they've lost interest and they've become bored. And that's the expression. It's a bored expression. It seems to me. That's my guess. It's just, there's something about, it's kind of, it's almost scoffing at people. If you have a responsibility a little bit. If you're going to contrive an image, you know, I'm not saying it's about him trying to make them look good or getting them to do cheesy smiles or anything like that. But, you know, some of them will have some character. Why not just bring some of that out a little bit, you know, rather than just gormless, dead, blank expressions? You know, are they all meth addicts or something? I don't know. You know, the inmate. What am I supposed to feel or think or anything about him or any of the images? It's like, is he in there incorrectly? Has he been put in prison by an error of the judicial system? Is he a serial killer? I don't know. I don't know anything about this guy. So I have to go, well, is there an aesthetic there that is interesting? No. Just a blank expression. What am I supposed to take from this? I can't take anything from it. And so I'm saying, every photograph, regardless, has to have something that you can attach to, or something that you can feel, some texture, some light, some shade, something. It's just a sort of. I mean, if I sat here for 5 minutes, not moving or saying a word, you would turn off, wouldn't you? You'd switch over. And I'm suggesting the same thing here. It's just I'm sure the 10.8 camera is there to compensate something for this sort of lack of anything. Photograph of. I'm just going to stop here because it's just it's kind of pretentious. When I hear him speak, he keeps on referring to himself as an artist, and I kind of get very irritated by this. You don't call yourself an artist. You don't call your photographs art. I just think this is highly, highly pretentious again. Being called an artist is something that others bestow upon you. The moment you start calling yourself an artist, it just sounds grandiose. It sounds like you've got delusions of grandeur. And look, I get it. I know he's a very cool photographer of the moment. I get it. It's very uncool for me to be saying this, but it reminds me a little bit of Jeff Goldblum. If you listen to him, you think, oh my God, this guy must be an incredible actor. Oh, he's so interesting. But what's he been in, really? Where's the body of work? Where's the substance? People who talk and people who do, or are able, a mattress underwater. Really? That was something interesting a while back, but again, it's been done a million times. A kind of sofa with a load of stuff. You know that he's fiddled with that and faffed around and contrived the whole thing. I just find it, I don't know. I don't get it. Anyway, that's enough said. Leave me some comments, because the images are okay. I don't dispute that they're okay, but they're nothing more than that, in my opinion. But here's the thing: I am more than happy to be. Maybe I'm missing something. And I love it when I get it. The penny drops. Enlighten me. Tell me what it is about his work that is in any way vaguely interesting or worthy. Yeah. A penthouse. No, a hustler. Glamour magazine at the foot of a chair. Oh God. I think I was doing that when I was 17. I thought that was somehow interesting, or come on. It's kind of infantile. On the other hand, an Alex rather than Alex Webb, I've almost got nothing to say about him, because guess what? His work speaks for itself. The work speaks for itself. It's, you don't need to say anything. It's just brilliant. It has everything. Um, you know, take note, Alec. This is how it's different photography, and you can't compare one with another. I get that totally, but you know, it's got something. It's got intrigue. It's got geometry. It's got color. It's brilliant. You just go, wow, okay. Um, Other people that I've loved in the past and still love, some of their images. Um, Andre Curtis, definitely. Wow. Um, and Edward Steichen, early photographers that just blew me away. I mean, I just thought, wow, that's these are the photographs that made me go and buy another, not another camera, a camera. I just had to go and, for me, it was like buying a bike. When I was a kid, I didn't have to think to myself, oh, will I like cycling? Will I? No, it was got a bike and off I went. It was just immediate and amazing because I could get to my mates. I could, have fun with my mates on my bike. I could go and play tennis. I could get, it made total sense. Um, and that's what a camera was to me when I bought it. I didn't think for a second, am I going to enjoy this? I saw these images and thought, I just want to go and see. I want this. This has to happen. And so, whilst I never tried to emulate these images or on any level, they absolutely inspired me to buy my camera. So on some level, they inspired me. Um, I mentioned Kudelka again. Yeah, I don't need to talk about it. It's obvious. It's amazing. It's beautiful. Something that happened when I was at primary school. I want to say around about the age of 8 or something. I remember being in the assembly hall, wooden floor, sat down, cross-legged in rows. Teacher comes in, wheeling this television on a stand, wheels on the stand, wheels it in, plums it in, bit of a bit of white noise or whatever, and then on comes this French film, a short French film, almost no dialogue, called The Red Balloon. And yeah, I mean that my life was never the same again. You can watch it on YouTube. It's a beautiful, beautiful. It has everything. I mean, I think honestly I didn't have a camera at that age, but I think this went in. It resonated so powerfully in my brain, and I think I've just been a boy trying to find the next red balloon ever since, really. Yeah, just beautiful life. Um, it has everything in it, and I think it won an Oscar for the script or something, which is almost non-existent. So I'm not quite sure what that was about, but it had to win something because it's so beautiful. Yeah, it was the Albert Lamouris. That was the director, and I think it was his son that played the boy, and his daughter that actually played the girl. I think. Um, Moving on, I'm going to say Mario Giacomelli. Not into landscapes. I'm definitely not into priests. Um, but, you know, I don't even own one of his books. I've tried to get them, and they have to come from abroad. And I don't know. I never know which one to buy. I should perhaps buy all of them. Um, I don't, it doesn't sort of tell you how big the books are or how big the prints are going to be. Or there's just very little written about him for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. But yeah, I mean, absolutely unbelievable. Some of these landscapes, they're like patchwork quilts almost. It's just, that kind of swirl, and then the little house in the top right hand corner. It's just so, I don't know what it is. They're almost like lithe photographs, aren't they? But they're not. And then the pre-shots just pranking around in the snow, throwing snowballs, playing Ring a Ring of Roses. I mean, what is that about? But it's just amazing stuff. Absolutely phenomenal. I love it. I don't know why. I can't really tell you why. I just think it's brilliant. And then these more priests, I don't know. And then the woman in the bottom. I don't know. It's just a little eerie, isn't it? But brilliant nonetheless. Yeah, Mario Giacomelli. I think that's mustn't forget films. Federico Fellini. Um, yeah, enough said. Um, I've pulled out some Martin Parr stuff here now. Um, I've always had a bit of a problem with him. I don't know why. It's I read a book once by John Fowles called The Collector, and for me, Martin's work seems to be a little bit like Alex Soth's in the sense that, The Last Resort. When it first came out, I remember thinking, "Wow, this is really good." But there was something about it that I thought was a little. I couldn't quite work it out. I don't think I had that sort of emotional intelligence to understand it. But I just thought, oh, it's sort of looking down your nose at the working classes a bit there, isn't it? And then later on, I kind of thought, yeah, that's definitely what it's doing. Um, and then I had an interview from him, and he said, well, yeah, but I do that at the middle classes as well, and I do it at the upper classes. As if that was a legitimate argument. So you look down your nose at everybody. That's your stance in life, to look down your nose at people. It's, I don't know. It's a sort of slightly snobby way of approaching photography. But the John Fowles book was all about, it's quite a disturbing thing, but it was this collector mentality. And again, I saw a documentary with him, and he has this, he collects these weird, they're weird to me, each their own, but, Saddam Hussein watches, paper plates with Lady Diana faces on, to the extent that you had to buy another house to accommodate this stuff. It's just full of. Anyway, and I kind of, I sort of thought that's a little bit like his photography. I remember him saying that I think he spent 3 years photographing empty car spaces. So it's almost like, quantity is more important than quality. It's like 3 years photographing car spaces, even a year or a month, it seems hugely excessive to me. And his thing was, oh well, the roads are so claustrophobic now, and there's just so much traffic. And yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, you do what you want to do. I'm not saying that's wrong, but it just seems a little bit Asperger's or something to me. Again, I sort of, it's that comes down to I want to connect with this stuff, and I don't find myself connecting with it. I think it's hugely important in terms of, what he's inputted into the world of photography, but you can't doubt that. 100 books, but again, it's about how many books can I get out. How many photographs of car parking space. It's like, yeah, okay, but I don't know. It just it's interesting to a point, but misses the point on some level, I think. Anyway, I think that's probably it. Apart from, last but not least, by any stretch of the imagination, the one person I think that has had the most profound effect and is probably the most unique, although you might argue with that in the sense that they don't seem that unique now, by virtue of the fact that they're so revered, they've been seen so much. You feel like you've known them all your life, or at least I do. Henry Cartier-Bresson. And for me, he's just hands down, I don't want to say the best photographer, but the most prolific. And prolific in every sense of the word, in his subject matter, in the way. So something like Joseph Kudelka, for example, there are sort of there's normally sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 images of a photographer that I like, or I like the images. The rest of the work is probably absolutely fine as well, but it's those 3, 4, 5, 6 that, really float my boat or whatever. With Cartier-Bresson, I love every single image, and there's probably 400 or 500 images. I don't know how many, but they're all just astounding. They all make me feel something. They all are a luxury for the eyes. I mean, I was watching the Talented Mr. Ripley, the Minghella version, the best one, Anthony Minghella's version, with Jude Law and Matt Damon, Kate Blanchett, Gwyneth Paltrow, and lo and behold, if you blink, you miss it. But one of the scenes is a straight copy of this photograph. It's just sort of paying homage to Cartier-Bresson. It's real. It's life. It's happening. It's vital. It's visceral. And then it's all framed, full frame, in this perfect, with perfect geometry, with perfect just, again, don't have to say anything. If a student asks me if you to buy one book, what book would you buy? It would be this one. I mean, I'd be slightly reluctant in the sense that they might find it overwhelming because it's just so amazing. But I would provide a caveat and just say, just study it, look at it, and don't try and take photographs like that, but understand the rules, and then break them if you want to, but at least understand the rules first and foremost. Learn what wonderful photography is, and then go and shoot banal stuff if you want, but know what it is. Absolutely know what genius looks like, because this is it. And he's a unique photographer because there won't be anybody like him ever again that is so this is quality and quantity. Yes, he was allowed to do it because he was fortunate enough to have been left a lot of money, but you've still got to produce the work, and boy did he produce. It's just exquisite on every level. You can leaf through the stuff, or you can just take one image and break it down and look at it and look at it and look at it and really thank your lucky stars that you're witnessing such brilliance, because for me he's the greatest artist of the 20th century, by a long way, and if not one of the top three, but I would say the best, absolutely the best. And he wouldn't call himself an artist. He didn't even like being called a photographer. So yeah, maybe you get my point. Wonderful, just stunning. I've not even included any portraits here, but so many images, just such. In fact, I did bring. Again, I'm not going to be able to show you, but the best book in the world, as far as I'm concerned, Thames and Hudson. You can, just so much. It's about 150 images in here, beautifully reproduced, and every single image astonishing. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see. I've just pulled a fraction out here. Real life in a split moment, nothing contrived, just real life. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there because enough said, I think. Those are but a few, but yeah, Cartier-Bresson is, if I had to choose one photographer, that's Cartier-Bresson would be it. He's the special man. That's it. I hope that was helpful or useful or interesting on some level, and catch you for the next one. Cheers for now.